You probably know by now that portfolios are essential for landing jobs in instructional design today. But you don't want your portfolio to blend into everyone else's. You want it to be a good representation for what it is that you do and what it is that you want to do. So whether or not you're an industry veteran with and have had a portfolio for years, or you haven't even considered making one yet, in this video, I'll show you how to use a marketing technique to optimize your portfolio and help you land the types of jobs that you want. Hi, I'm Robbie Christian, a freelance instructional designer, and I help Devlin run the Instructional Design Bootcamp. I've reviewed a lot of portfolios over the last couple of years, and what I've determined is that the portfolios that have the clearest identity are the ones that turn out to be the most effective. So let's take a look at what it is that it takes to have that clearest identity and to have an optimized portfolio to get the jobs that you want to get. So there are two fundamental components involved when making the most effective portfolio: knowing yourself and knowing your audience. So knowing yourself, narrowing down your focus and finding a job requires you to be introspective. Take a long look at yourself and find the intersection between skill and passion. When I left my job, I had hardly any open opportunities to move up in my existing field. And so I had to think about taking a shift away from what I was doing and look at a whole new career path in a whole new industry. And so I spent days reflecting on really digging in of what it was that I liked to do, what I was passionate about, what I was good at. And I discovered that I had a skill, not discovered, but I wrote down a long list of my skills and my passions and sort of settled on a skill of creating e-learning. I had done e-learning and created and developed and designed it for about 10 years. And I was passionate about teaching and coaching and mentoring and watching people learn and apply new skills. So that led me to instructional design, which led me to Devlin's ID Bootcamp, which led me to freelancing, and ultimately led me to doing what I'm doing today, which is what I love to do, helping people by doing training, but also helping people get into instructional design and helping out with Devlin's ID Bootcamp. And if I hadn't looked at my skills and my passions and just sort of gone with what was next, then I really don't think that I would have the work-life balance and the happiness and the joy that I have today. So that's what we want to do. We want to be introspective. We want to figure out the skills and the passions that we have. But let's look at the practical steps. What can you do practically to find the answers to those questions? So first, you want to ask yourself, what expertise do you have? And this is what hard skills do you have? What soft skills do you have? What is it about your current job that you excel at? Is there something specific? Is there anything that you do better than your peers or your coworkers? Something that might set you apart from everybody else? Is there something that your coworkers regularly come to you for? You know, maybe it's something to do with technology, maybe working with a program, maybe talking with parents or teaching adults, or there might be something within your job that people often seek your expertise or your skill. Think about that. And what knowledge or skills do you have that is already above average? The higher above average you are at something, the less you need to, the less of a hurdle or an obstacle it will be to get into a job where you're doing those skills. So the second question that we should ask ourselves is, what do we want to do? What do you want to do? What have you always wanted to do? What is it that you have dreamed about doing? Is there something specific in your job that you already do that excites you? get really specific with this, and don't think of just the major pieces, but even those nitty-gritty specifics. Are there any singular tasks or individual tasks that excite you or make you happy? For instance, do you love working with technology? Do you love logic or logic games or puzzles? Maybe you would be a great fit for e-learning development. Do you love working with people? You might be a good match for doing project management or upfront analysis or interacting with the clients. Or maybe you like to write. You could be a great storyboard writer and do storyboarding within e-learning. The bottom line is there are a lot of different facets and aspects of instructional design, and it's not just one piece. So what we want to do is find the intersection between what you're good at and what you like to do or what you want to do. And there's no right balance. It's just what's best for you. What balance do you want to have? You can pursue something that you are 100% skilled at and have no passion in, and you'll probably find a job relatively quickly, but you might not be happy there. On the flip side, you might pursue something that you are extremely passionate about, but have zero skill in, and that's okay. It just means you'll need to upskill. You'll need to take more time, more effort, more energy, and probably more money to invest in yourself and build those skills so that you are up to the level that people are looking to hire. And if you're willing to put in that extra work and put in that extra time, then you could pursue those things that you have a passion for. So it's just a matter of balancing those two things, what you're skilled at and what you're passionate about. And as a disclaimer, while it's good to specialize, and while it's helpful to find your focus and what you want to do, it's good to have experience in a handful of these things. Like I said, instructional design has a lot of different aspects to it. And a good instructional design will be able to talk the talk and understand all of those different aspects. And so a good instructional designer will at least have exposure to all of those different components within the instructional design process. Let me give you an example. If you are writing storyboards, you want to have a sense for those authoring tools. You want to have an idea for what's possible and what's not possible, because otherwise you might write a storyboard that would take way more resources and way more development time and cost than the client has. And you might submit a storyboard that is just entirely unrealistic. Or maybe you're putting something together maybe you're the developer putting something together that doesn't play well with a client's learning management system. And so it's good to have experience working with learning management systems if you're doing the development. So make sure if you do find that focus and find what it is that you're passionate and excited about and skilled in, it's also helpful to have an idea of those other types of skills and be exposed to those other pieces within instructional design. So that's all about knowing yourself. Understand yourself, and you'll have a much better idea for where you want to go. But the next part of the puzzle is understanding your audience. Once you figure out your own direction, it'll be time to determine what types of jobs exist, who is hiring for those jobs, and then ensure that they can find you. And all of it boils down to a proven marketing framework, STP: segmentation, targeting, and positioning. And don't worry if these terms are totally new to you. We're going to dive into them in a bit of detail within this video. I just want to emphasize, whether you're starting out in instructional design, creating your portfolio from scratch, or a seasoned expert that has had a portfolio for years, whether you're looking into a full-time position or whether you're looking into doing freelancing, this applies to you. And this is something that you can use. This is a framework that you can use as you build and as you tweak your portfolio for your entire career long. So segmentation, targeting, and positioning. So let's take a look at this segmentation. Based on your skill and passion that you've already identified, we want to figure out who is your audience. In other words, who needs your skill set? Are you going to be working with large companies, corporations? Do you want to connect with government agencies? Are you looking to get into educational institutions? Maybe your audience is a specific division within a company, like sales or training or management. Maybe recruiting agencies. Maybe you're going directly to the recruiting agencies and that's your audience, and they are then going to find a match for you. Or maybe you're getting into a niche industry. And that was my background, was the niche industry. It was just too small of an industry and there weren't enough opportunities. And so when I was segmenting my audience and segmenting the whole market, I wanted to broaden that scope a little bit more and open it up to a broader audience there. And it's not necessarily that you're going to be going straight for a learning department or a training department, for instance. Somebody who I was just working with in the boot camp had an incredible amount of expert knowledge in a particular arena. And it's an area that's highly academic. And so within her network, she started to reach out to the experts in the field that were already working at companies. And so she didn't necessarily need to go to the training departments or their recruiting or recruiting agency. She went straight to the experts, talked to them, and showed her skill as an expert and also as somebody who was getting into instructional design. Those experts then went to their company and they were able to talk her up as a professional and be able to hire her in those types of roles. So everybody has a different audience that they're looking for. And it's up to you to figure out who that audience is based on the type of job that you're looking for. Now, if you don't have an audience, if you don't know what your segment is, that's okay. Don't feel like you just need to shut down. There is a mass marketing strategy out there to just sort of the shotgun technique of get your name out there as many places as you can, as far as you can. The challenge there is that takes a bit more effort to be concerted and get your name out. It's a little bit more challenging in some ways, but it is a strategy, and it's okay if you don't know who your audience is. It's best if you do. You're able to focus your efforts and narrow your efforts and really hone in on the audience that will understand and respect you and hire you for the jobs you want. But just because you don't know your segment doesn't mean that you're not going to land a job. So after you've identified your segment of the market, what you need to do is target. Targeting means, how do you design and optimize your portfolio to speak to your audience directly? What do you put on your portfolio? Whatever you put out there, that is you telling the world that this is what I want to do for a living. This is what I want you to hire me for. This is what I want to wake up every single morning and be excited about doing. That's the idea with targeting. And so think about how you'll design your portfolio to highlight your skill and your passion to your audience. Be very deliberate about this. Don't just throw everything up there. Focus on your ideal job. Don't try to sell everything. On my own personal portfolio, I focus a lot on the development side because those are the examples that I had. Those are the work samples that I had to work from when I was building my portfolio. And although I know very well how to do every step of the process, And I can do video editing, I can do voiceovers, I can do the analysis, I can do the follow-up, the pre-analysis, the follow-up analysis. I can do all of the different aspects within instructional design. However, I wanted to hone and focus my portfolio a little bit more. And lo and behold, when I started receiving offers and opportunities from people that had viewed my portfolio, most of those opportunities were in development because that's what I was highlighting. And it didn't mean that that was the only type of work that I was doing. I wanted to show that I could do all of those different things, but I highlighted the development on my portfolio. And that's the thing with your portfolio. It's okay to show that you can do all these skills. But what you want to do in focusing and in targeting your specific audience is you want to highlight a very specific skill set that you have that you want to be hired to do. So don't sell everything, show that you can do everything, but don't make it the focus. Don't make it the focus. Figure out what it is that you want to highlight on your portfolio, and that's what you want to put out there. And think about it. If there's a company out there that is looking to hire somebody for a needs analysis, for example, if they see one portfolio that lists a dozen different other skills, there's a long list of things that someone can do, and they see one portfolio that specializes in needs analysis, if it's me, I'm going to put a lot more emphasis on the person who specializes in needs analysis, and that's what their whole business model is on. I'm probably going to give them the job. In instructional design, people out there all the time are looking to fill specific roles. So if you can be that person for that specific role, then that sets you up at a great advantage. If you want to be that jack of all trades, there are jobs for those, but they're just a different audience. It again comes down to understanding your audience. And so let's get a little bit more specific. On your portfolio, when you're optimizing your portfolio, think about the tagline. Think about the imagery, the fonts, the colors, your about section, your testimonials. What is it within there that you want to highlight? How do you want to present yourself? How do you want to represent your brand? Do you want it to be something fun and happy and playful? Do you want it to be professional and polished? What sort of about info do you want to highlight? Do you want to show off your educational background? Do you want to show off a certain skill set from your background? And in terms of the testimonials, how do you want to highlight different skills from other people? Where do you want these other people to be from? Do you want them to be subject matter experts in a field that you're looking to get into? Do you want them to be managers? Do you want them to be coworkers? Think carefully about every single piece that you're putting on your portfolio. Look at it through the eyes of the person in your ideal job who's looking to hire someone. What is it that's going to impress them? What do they want to see? Block out the rest of the noise. Everybody else who's hiring, forget about that and focus on your specific audience. That is how to optimize your portfolio. So every one of those different things makes a big difference when it comes down to putting your portfolio together. And in a competitive world, what we need to do is show how we stand out. How are you differentiated from the rest of the market? How are you differentiated from everyone else? Now, the disclaimer here is just because you specialize in something doesn't mean that that's all you're going to do. That's not the only work that you're going to do. My portfolio is a direct result of my portfolio. I did land development jobs and opportunities, and those were great, and I loved them. However, as a result of those, once I started getting work, I started to get connected with a larger network, And I started receiving job offers for other things that were not highlighted in my portfolio. I started doing jobs for storyboarding, for instance. Had a client where I was writing storyboards for them. And it was wonderful, but it's not what's highlighted on my portfolio. So really, to get into this industry, if you really want to focus your efforts, then hone your portfolio, figure out your segment of the market, and target that audience. It doesn't mean that those are the only jobs you're going to get. So don't be worried if you don't know what your segment is. If you don't know how to target that audience, it's okay. You can focus your portfolio as much as you want. It doesn't mean those are the only jobs you're going to get. It doesn't necessarily mean that nobody's ever going to look at you for anything else. When you're first starting out in the industry, that's a lot more the case. Once you start getting jobs and building relationships and growing your network, that's when opportunities start coming in that might be a little outside of the focus of your portfolio. And that's great. And you'll have the opportunity to either take those on or turn them down. So once you've segmented the audience, once you've targeted the audience that you're looking to target, the next step is to position. We need to put you in front of the people who are hiring for these jobs. Think about it. If your portfolio is perfect, if there ever was such a thing, if you were a perfect fit for your ideal candidate, for your ideal job, but they can't find you, then your portfolio is doing no good. We need to make sure that you are positioned in front of your audience that you have targeted. So think about it. Where is your audience? Put yourself in front of them. Are they on LinkedIn? Are there specific online communities or industry publications? Do they show up to certain conferences across the country, across the world? Are there recruiting agencies that they're connected to? And most of all, networking. Networking is a huge, huge, huge piece of the puzzle here. You need to get yourself in front of those people. Wherever they are, you need to build your network, figure out where your audience is, and position yourself directly in front of them so they see you all the time. Ensure your audience can see you. If they can't see you, it doesn't matter how good your portfolio is. They need to be able to see you. And one of the ways that I like to approach this, as with every step of the process, put yourself in their shoes. If they are hiring somebody to fill that position, what are they going to look for? And where are they going to find it? You need to put yourself there. So it's most likely going to be word of mouth. That's normally, if I'm putting myself in that employer's position, in their shoes, it's most likely going to be asking my coworkers, hey, do you know anybody who's really good at this? If not that, I need to make sure that I'm in front of wherever they do look. So if I don't have any way to already be in their network, where else can I be that they're going to go to? Is that LinkedIn? Is it a community, a publication? Wherever it is, that's where I need to be. So you need to ask yourself, how can you make yourself visible there? And in terms of making sure your portfolio is spread as much as it can be, wherever you are, positioning yourself in front of that audience, you need to make sure they also have access to your portfolio. So it's one thing to send an email, but it's another thing to have your portfolio linked in your email signature. It's one thing to send a resume and show someone your resume. It's another thing to have a link to your portfolio in the resume. Same thing with your business card, with your LinkedIn profile. Have your portfolio in as many places as it can possibly be. So every time that you're putting yourself in front of your audience, your portfolio is there. And then finally, we have segmented your audience. We have figured out how to target your audience and tweak your portfolio to fit what it is that your audience is looking for. Then we position yourself in front of that audience so that they can find you. Now it's important to understand that we want to have optimization not just one time, but ongoing. It needs to be dynamic. We want dynamic optimization of your portfolio. And it's okay to figure out your specialty as you go. There's this idea of progress over perfection. We're looking for progress. We want to put out a portfolio. We don't want to wait until it's perfect. Remember that portfolios are dynamic. So make it once, put it out there in the world, and know that you can always keep it updated. You can focus in, you can narrow in on your specialty over time if you want. If you find that you've narrowed too far and sort of ended up in a little bit too small of a niche, you can widen that scope a little bit over time to attract a different audience. You can change your colors, your font, your tagline, your image, any of these. You can change them over time to dynamically segment, target, and position yourself to match the jobs that you're looking for. Heck, if I waited until I had a perfect portfolio before I posted it online, to this day, I probably wouldn't have a portfolio. I would be constantly working on it and never publish it. So publish it. There's a long list. There's legitimately a long list of things that I want to change about my own portfolio. But because the reason I have a portfolio is to get work. Well, I have so much work coming in that I don't have the time to update my portfolio. So that long list continues to sit there and grow over time. And I just haven't had the opportunity to go back and make those changes. So I can. And if there comes a time that I'm ready to shift my focus a little bit and change that audience a tiny bit, then I can. And I can start to address a lot of that list that I've already put together to slightly change my segment, change that target a little bit, and position myself a little bit differently in front of that audience. So always remember, portfolios are dynamic. Don't ever feel like you're locked in. Whatever you put out there, that's not necessarily the final version. Always change it, always update it, always keep it active and alive. As long as you are using it to continue to look for new work, make it work for you and make it focused on what it is that you want to do. So let's make it happen. If you want to work with me directly and get personalized feedback on your instructional design journey and your portfolio and your different portfolio projects, then let's join up in Devlin's ID Bootcamp. And I would love to work with you personally and directly and give you extensive feedback on that process and breaking into instructional design, or if you're already there, on honing those skills and segmenting, targeting, and positioning yourself in front of the audience that you're looking for. So moving forward, I'm going to be working on some freelancing and some scenario-based content. So once I get a sense for what it is that you all would like to hear, I want to keep it coming, then let me know. Post something in the comments below and you can help direct and steer the content of this series. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more like this, then go ahead and hit subscribe. Like the video, subscribe to the video, show some comments, and in doing so, you can keep updated with all the latest material. So in the meantime, enjoy working on your own portfolios, optimizing your own portfolios to match those ideal jobs that you're looking for. And I will see you around. Take care.